The crate arrived late. It was supposed to arrive at the start of the station's artificial day cycle, when docking bays were quiet and workers alert. Instead, it arrived during the dim hours, when lights were low and only maintenance crews moved through the long metal halls of Trade Station H-47. Keth was alone when the alert chimed. He stood from his workbench, long fingers pausing over exposed wires and glowing panels. He had been repairing an old heat regulator, something he understood far better than social programs or government-approved companionship contracts. The message blinked again. Delivery complete. Recipient, Keth of the Raylith Collective. Cargo classification, living. Handle with care. Keth felt a strange tightness in his chest cavity. He had ordered the companion unit months ago. The station counselors had insisted it would help him integrate emotionally after years of isolated engineering work. They had used many words: bonding, stability, social warmth, but none of them had prepared him for the reality of a living shipment arriving in a box. He collected his thermal cloak and left his quarters. The docking bay smelled of cold metal and recycled air. A single cargo platform sat in the center, its lights blinking yellow. On it rested a large rectangular crate, taller than Keth and reinforced with heavy clasps. Frost clung to its edges, thin crystals forming along the seams. Keth approached slowly. The crate was marked with symbols from the Interstellar Exchange Authority, along with one translated label that made his throat dry. Human, Terran origin. He had read about humans. Everyone had. They were new to the wider galaxy, biologically fragile, emotionally intense, known for endurance beyond logic, classified as adaptive companions by bureaucrats who had never met one. Keth placed his palm on the crate. It was cold, too cold. His hearing membranes twitched as he detected a faint sound from inside. Not mechanical, not airflow, breathing. His hands moved faster after that. He released the clasps one by one, careful not to snap the frozen metal. As the final lock disengaged, the front panel slid open with a hiss. Inside, wrapped in thermal fabric and restraint webbing, was a human woman. She was smaller than he expected. Her skin was pale, lips tinged blue with cold. Dark hair clung to her face in damp strands. Her eyes were open and watching him. The moment the panel opened fully, her body tensed. She pulled her knees closer to her chest, one arm wrapped protectively around a dented metal box pressed against her side. Her free hand shook, but it was clenched into a fist. "Don't," she said hoarsely. The translator in Keth's ear adjusted, smoothing her words into his language. The fear needed no translation. "I am Keth," he said carefully, lowering himself so he did not loom over her. "You are safe. The transit is over." Her eyes flicked to the open bay, then back to him. Her breathing was fast, shallow. "You bought me," she said. It was not a question. Keth froze. "I requested a companion unit," he said slowly. "But I was informed you would be willing. That consent was—" She laughed once, sharp and bitter, then coughed. "They said it was work," she said. "They said I'd have shelter, heat, food. They didn't say I'd be shipped like equipment." Her grip tightened on the metal box. Keth felt a deep wave of wrongness ripple through him. He looked at the crate again. The restraints, the temperature settings clearly calibrated for non-human cargo, the lack of internal heating. "This is a failure," he said quietly. "A severe one." She stared at him, suspicious. "Are you going to open the rest?" she asked, eyes flicking to the remaining restraints. "No," Keth said at once. "I will remove them." He reached in slowly, giving her time to pull back if she wished. She did not strike him, though her muscles stayed tense. As the webbing loosened, he noticed how thin she was, how her hands trembled uncontrollably now that the pressure was gone. "You are hypothermic," he said. "Humans require higher ambient heat." She swallowed. "Yeah, I noticed." Keth disengaged the final restraint. She did not move. "I will carry you," he said, "if you allow it." Her eyes searched his face, his smooth skin, his large reflective eyes, the careful distance he kept. Finally, she gave a small nod. "Okay," she whispered, "but don't touch the box." "I will not," Keth promised. He lifted her gently, surprised by how light she was. She clutched the metal box to her chest as if it were part of her body. Her head rested against his shoulder for just a moment before she stiffened again, as if remembering herself. Keth activated his cloak's internal heater and wrapped it around her as best he could. The warmth caused her to shiver harder before it began to help. They moved through the station halls in silence. In his quarters, Keth immediately adjusted the environmental controls, raising the temperature well above Rayleigh norms. He placed her on the sleeping platform and brought thermal blankets. She did not lie down. She sat back pressed to the wall, knees drawn up, box locked between her legs. Her eyes followed his every movement. "I am not going to restrain you," Keth said. "You may leave if you wish." She gave him a tired look. "And go where?" she asked. "I don't even know where here is." Keth considered that. "You may stay," he said, "as my guest, not as property." That word made her flinch. "My name is Mara," she said after a moment. "If you're going to talk to me." "I am honored, Mara," Keth replied. He offered her a heated nutrient drink calibrated for human biology, another thing he had studied just in case. She eyed it, sniffed it, then took a careful sip. Her shoulders loosened slightly. Minutes passed, then more. The color slowly returned to her face, but her eyes remained guarded. "You really didn't know?" she asked quietly. "No," Keth said. "If I had, I would not have agreed to this method." She looked down at her box, thumb rubbing the dented corner. "They took everything else," she said weight limits. This was all I could keep. Keth felt an unexpected pressure behind his eyes. "I am sorry," he said, "for the harm done to you." She did not answer. Later, when exhaustion finally claimed her, she lay down without removing her grip on the box. Even in sleep, her fingers curled tightly around its edges. Keth remained awake. He sat at his workbench, reviewing the transaction logs, his hands shaking with barely controlled anger. There were errors everywhere, misclassifications, consent flags ignored, temperature requirements overridden to save energy costs. This was not companionship. It was cruelty wrapped in paperwork. He looked toward the sleeping platform. Mara slept curled inward, as if making herself small, the box pressed to her chest like a shield. Keth made a decision then. Whatever the contract said, whatever the station authorities believed, this human would not be treated as cargo again. He would correct the damage done, even if it meant challenging systems far larger than himself. Outside his quarters, the station hummed on, unaware that a single crate had already begun to change things. And in the warmth of the room, for the first time since leaving Earth, the human did not shiver. The warmth in Keth's quarters lasted through the station's artificial night, but it did not erase fear so easily. Mara woke with a sharp breath, sitting upright before her eyes fully opened. Her hands went straight to the metal box. When she realized she was no longer in the crate, that the ceiling above her was smooth and softly lit instead of dark and cramped, her breathing slowed, but only a little. The room was quiet, too quiet. She listened hard, trying to place unfamiliar sounds. A low hum came from the walls, air moving, power systems. Somewhere far away, metal echoed as something heavy shifted. Not Earth, she thought. She pushed herself upright, keeping her back against the wall. The blanket slid down her shoulders, warm, properly warm. That alone confused her. The box sat in her lap. She checked the clasps by touch. Still sealed, still hers. Across the room, Keth sat at his workbench. He had not moved to the sleeping platform. His back was turned, posture relaxed but alert, long fingers adjusting small components under a soft glow. He noticed her reflection in a polished panel and turned his head slowly. "You are awake," he said. "Yeah," she replied. Her voice was steadier than she felt. "I thought I wasn't sure if I'd be." "You were severely cold," Keth said. Your biology responded well to the heat. She nodded, not trusting herself to speak yet. Silence stretched between them, not uncomfortable but careful, like a bridge still under construction. Do you require sustenance? Keth asked. Mara hesitated. Hunger had been a constant ache for so long that she barely noticed it anymore. Now that her body was warm, it roared back to life. I guess, she said, as long as it's not weird. Keth considered. All food is weird to someone, he said, but I have human-approved options. That earned him a small, surprised huff from her. He brought a tray and set it down a respectful distance away. Protein bars, hydrated grains, something like soup in a sealed container. She inspected everything carefully before eating, but once she started, she did not stop until the tray was empty. When she finished, she sat back, clearly exhausted but more present than before. You didn't sleep, she said, noticing his posture. I do not require extended rest cycles, Keth replied, and I wish to ensure you were safe. She studied him openly now. His movements were slow, controlled. He did not crowd her space or stare too long. Why? She asked. Why do you care so much? Keth paused. I believe harm was done to you under my name, he said. Responsibility follows that. She absorbed this quietly. Over the next station cycle, a routine formed, careful, unspoken, but real. Keth adjusted the environmental controls further after watching her shiver once near the doorway. He installed a secondary heater near the sleeping platform, despite it being uncomfortable for his own species. He learned which lights were too bright for her eyes and dimmed them without comment. Mara, in return, learned the layout of the quarters. She watched how Keth worked, how he organized tools by instinct rather than labels. She noticed how he never approached her from behind and always announced his presence before entering the room. Trust grew in small, uneven steps, but the box remained between them. She never let it leave her reach. When she moved, she carried it. When she slept, it rested against her chest or under her arm. When Keth glanced at it, even briefly, her shoulders tensed. On the third day, Keth noticed a new problem. The dent on one corner of the box had worsened. It was small, but enough to distort the seal. The metal around it showed stress lines, evidence of pressure damage during transport. Keth watched Mara struggle with the clasp that evening. Her fingers slipped, stiff and sore. She cursed under her breath. It's jammed, she muttered. May I assist? Keth asked carefully. Her answer was immediate. No, he nodded and stepped back. Later, when she slept, Keth scanned the box from a distance using passive sensors. The readings showed internal components vulnerable to exposure. If the seal failed completely, moisture and station air could damage whatever was inside. He felt unease coil in his chest. The next cycle, when Mara woke, he addressed it directly. The container is compromised, he said. If it remains unrepaired, its contents may degrade. Her grip tightened. Don't, she said. Don't tell me that. I will not open it, Keth said quickly, but I can repair the outer structure, only the damage with your permission. She stared at him, eyes hard. You swear you won't look inside? Yes. You won't log it, scan it. Report it? No. She searched his face for a long time. Finally, slowly, she nodded. Okay, she said, but I stay the whole time. Agreed. Keth prepared his tools at the table while Mara placed the box between them. She kept one hand on it as if expecting it to vanish. He worked with extreme care, reinforcing the damaged corner, reshaping the warped edge, restoring the seal without breaking it. His hands were steady, precise. He explained each step as he did it, even when she did not ask. As he finished, he noticed something unexpected. A small panel had been loosened by the damage, not enough to open the box, but enough for something inside to shift. A photograph slid partway into view. Mara froze. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Then she reached forward and pulled the photo free. It showed a small group of humans standing close together, older faces, younger ones, tired smiles. They were crowded into a narrow room, arms around each other. My family, she said quietly. Keth looked away, giving her privacy. They think I'm on a work colony, she continued. They don't know how it really works. If they did, they never would have let me go. Her voice shook, but she did not stop. There's tools in here, things I know how to use, clothes, letters, proof I existed before all this. She swallowed. This box is me. Keth felt something shift inside him. The repairs are complete, he said gently. Your box is safe. She hugged it to her chest, eyes closed. Thank you, she whispered. That night Mara slept deeper than before, and for the first time she did not wake at every small sound. Keth, however, did not rest. He reviewed station data feeds and public channels. News flickered across his display, trade updates, security advisories, rumors of increased raider activity near outer stations. One phrase repeated across multiple alerts: human asset value rising. His hands curled into fists. Across the station, unseen eyes had already noticed the arrival of a human shipment that did not move on schedule. And somewhere beyond the station's hull, something dangerous had begun to pay attention. The first sign of trouble was not an alarm. It was silence. Trade Station H-47 was never truly quiet. There was always movement, cargo lifts humming, distant voices, the soft vibration of ships docking and undocking. When that background noise faded, it felt like the station was holding its breath. Mara noticed it while tightening the strap on her boots. She had insisted on proper clothing after realizing the station's floor panels drew heat from her feet. Keth had quietly provided what she needed without questions. Now she stood near the doorway, box secured against her side with a strap she had made herself from spare material. "Do you hear that?" she asked. Keth paused mid-adjustment at his console. His sensory membranes flared. "Yes," he said slowly. "I should not." Before either of them could react, the lights dimmed. Then they cut out completely. Emergency illumination flickered on, bathing the room in dull red light. A moment later, the station-wide alert sounded. Security breach, outer ring, unauthorized boarding. Mara's stomach dropped. "Is that bad?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "Yes," Keth said. "Very." The communicator on Keth's wall crackled with overlapping voices. Station security calling for lockdowns, maintenance crews reporting failures, automated systems struggling to compensate. Then a new message cut through. All residents remain in place. Valuable biological assets are at risk. Mara felt cold again, though the room was still warm. "They're talking about me," she said. Keth did not deny it. "They are raiders," he said. "They target stations with weak defenses and high-value trade." "And humans," she added. "Yes." Mara's grip tightened on the strap of her box. "We need to move," she said. "Staying put makes us easy." Keth hesitated. His training said follow protocol. His instincts, new and unfamiliar, said trust the human. "Where?" he asked. "Somewhere narrow," she replied. "Somewhere they can't surround us." Another explosion echoed through the station. The floor trembled. That decided it. They left the quarters and moved into the maintenance corridors, tight, low-ceiling paths meant for engineers, not combat. Keth sealed doors behind them as they went, rerouting power, locking access points. Mara moved quietly, efficiently. Fear was there, but it did not slow her. "You've done this before," Keth said as she checked a corner before advancing. "Not this," she said, "but I've survived worse than people expect." They reached a junction where the corridor split. Voices echoed ahead, harsh, unfamiliar tones filtered through translators. Raiders. Keth's breathing quickened. "They are armed," he said. "I am not built for direct conflict." Mara nodded. "I am," she said simply. Before he could ask what she meant, she unstrapped the box. Her hands moved fast, confident. The clasps opened smoothly now, thanks to the repairs. Inside were not weapons of war, but tools. Compact, practical, human-made. She pulled out a small device, adjusted it, and pressed it to the wall panel. "What is that?" Keth whispered. "Emergency cutter," she replied. "Industrial grade, saved my life once." She cut power to the corridor ahead. Lights went out completely. The raiders cursed in confusion. Mara smiled, grim and focused. "They don't see well in the dark," she said. "I checked." The first raider rounded the corner too fast. Mara struck hard, using leverage and surprise rather than strength. The raider went down without a sound. Keth stared. Another came running. Mara rolled, using the narrow space to her advantage. A sharp crack echoed as the raider hit the wall and collapsed. More voices shouted now. Keth felt awe and fear twist together inside him. "Mara," he said, "we must move." She nodded and grabbed her box again. They retreated deeper into the station, sealing paths behind them. But the raiders adapted, forcing new routes using brute force where systems failed. At a final junction, they were cornered. 3 raiders advanced, weapons raised. Mara stepped forward. "Stay behind me," she told Keth. He did. The fight was fast and brutal. Mara used her tools, the environment, her body without hesitation. She was hit once, grazed along the arm, but she did not slow. When it was over, the corridor was silent again. Mara leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Keth moved to her side. "You are injured," he said. "It's nothing," she replied. "Still attached, that's a win." Station security finally arrived moments later, heavily armed, stunned by the scene they found. "A human," one officer said. Did she do this?" Mara looked at them, eyes steady. "I defended myself," she said. "And him?" The raiders were taken away. The breach was contained, but the damage was done. Word spread fast. Footage leaked. Whispers moved through the station. A human shipment that fought back. A fragile companion who dismantled armed raiders in close quarters. Keth and Mara returned to the quarters under escort. Only when the door sealed behind them did Mara finally sit down. Her hands shook now that the danger had passed. Keth knelt in front of her. "You protected me," he said. She let out a tired laugh. "Guess that makes us even," she said. He carefully cleaned her wound, hands gentle, respectful. "You should have been warned," he said. "About us." Mara met his gaze. "You should have been warned about humans," she replied. They sat in silence for a long time. Outside, the station began to change. Security protocols were rewritten. The mail order program was suspended pending investigation. And across the network, one truth spread faster than any official notice. Humans were not cargo. And anyone who treated them as such would pay the price.